I was just on the radio, Free Talk Live, tuning around for something to listen to. They're talking about Boston. They've went into the drug war, enforcement issues, and how police officers interact with citizens, and how the government, through police officers, interacts with citizens. And there's been a lot of drug war talk. Is it good? Is it bad? Etc. And what I'm going to say to you right now, this might cost me some subscribers, because I know some people aren't going to like what I have to say. But this is what I was talking about on the radio. And the drug war is a disturbing thing. I used to be the guy that would say the government needs to bomb the places the drugs are coming from, because it isn't going to be until the leaders of those countries are threatened with losing their leadership before they're going to take care of the problem within their own borders and stop the cocaine and everything else from coming into the country. I was about as extreme as you could possibly imagine. Extremely immature position for me to take. I hate drugs. If one of you is thinking about doing drugs, I'll go to great extents to talk you out of it, to show you, what happens to people that do that drug over time. And it's drugs are terrible, terrible, terrible. But I've learned a lot about liberty in the last couple of years. And, how do I earn a right to tell you what you're going to put into your body? I mean, think about that. How do I earn that right to tell you that, to control what you put into your body? There is no way for me to earn that right. Not to earn it as a right, as a natural right, as an indisputable right. I am for liberty. And that means if you want to do something to yourself, if you want to put something in your body that would be personally, I would never do. I mean, it's not my personal, choice to smoke marijuana or do crack or any of that other stuff. But if you want to do that, I mean, I can use my words, but beyond that, I can't threaten you. I can't put you in jail. All that stuff is completely immoral. I mean, as Americans, we have these people that are sick in our society. People who do drugs, I think, are essentially sick in some way. Sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's physical. I don't know, maybe some of them are just functioning on these drugs and they do well in society and hold down jobs and all that other stuff. I can grant all that stuff. It's not my personal choice. I have no right to force my personal choices on another human being. I cannot earn a right to force my personal choices on another human being. And when we as a country gather these people up and send them someplace where they're going to be beaten and raped, which is what's going to happen to them in jail, and then we want to stand on the high moral ground and say, well, we're making sure these people get what they need. Well, going to jail and getting beaten and raped is not treatment for drug abuse. I get very emotional about this. It is despicable. I feel so strongly about this. We are putting the wrong people in jail. We should be putting the predators in jail who are sending these people out to be violated in prison. These people who have a drug problem need to be under the care of a doctor. They do not need to be raped and beaten. They do not need to be behind bars. And you might say, well, but Dave, what about the drug crime and all that kind of stuff? All of that is completely and totally caused by the state, caused by government. There isn't a drug on the planet, this is my understanding, that costs much more than a cup of coffee to produce. Now, stolen merchandise on the black market sells for about 10%. So if you've got a $3,000 a month coke habit or crack habit or whatever your crazy habit is, you got to come up with $30,000 a month to get the $3,000. Now, obviously these people go broke. Okay, this stuff's expensive. And then what do? They start prostituting themselves. They start committing robberies and et cetera and et cetera. because the drug is so costly, because the government is interfering with what would otherwise be a very cheap and available substance. They're interfering with that marketplace. It is very costly to get drugs into the United States or to produce them because there's such a risk of jail time. So much of it gets confiscated. People are not going to take these chances unless they get paid very, very well. I mean, it is indisputable. The government is the cause of the high price of all of these drugs. People are not going to prostitute themselves or break into houses to get 50 cents or $1 to pay for a cup of coffee. They're just not going to do that. They can go beg for it. They can collect scrap metal, whatever. They can do something. You know, they don't have to take those giant risks. Now, is that to say that if drugs were 50 cents and $1, that there'd be no crime? Well, no, of course there'd be crime. I mean, there's always going to be crime on the world. You know, there's crime involving automobiles and shovels and property and boats, and you know, there's crime involving everything. So yeah, sure, there's always going to be crime, and there would always be crime related to drugs. But think about all of the crime that we have is really all connected to the extremely high cost of the drugs. People want to get what they want, and they'll find a way to scratch up the money to get it. And if scratching up that money means scratching the skin off of your back to get it, they will do it. It's just, I mean, it's just so plainly obvious. We cannot use violence against people who are behaving peaceably. I mean, how many people are sitting in jail in these rape and beating rooms because they had marijuana in their basement and they were peaceably smoking it somewhere? You know, I mean, this is not a violent drug. And most people who are doing drugs are not violent. Now, I mean, there are problems, certainly. I mean, I don't want someone operating an automobile that doesn't have their head screwed on straight. I think that should be illegal, most definitely. A heavy piece of equipment, most definitely. That stuff should be illegal. But we're not solving the problem by sending them to rape training, to sending them to criminal training. That does not solve the problem. All it does is provide tons of salaries, benefits, retirements to a whole set of government employees. I mean, if I'm ever in a jury involving any kind of drug case, I don't care what law the guy's broke. I mean, as long as he's not initiated force on another human being, I'm going to overturn that. I'm not going to vote to convict that guy. They stop some guy on the highway with 500 pounds of marijuana in his trunk. Fine, let him go. You know, as long as he didn't use force on the police officers, as long as he didn't steal it from somebody, etc., as long as he didn't use force on another human being, I don't care. It's none of my business if you want to smoke marijuana or you want to smoke cigarettes or etc., etc., etc. As long as you don't involve me in it by crime or blowing it in my face, I mean, go ahead and have at it. I don't think you should do it. But, you know, we've got to get past the point where we call in Papa Government to take care of everything, to make every person choose the same things that we've chosen. I mean, I don't want neighbors who are dopers. You know, who does? But, you know, I don't want a neighbor that beats his wife either. You know, I mean, I don't want any of that stuff near me. But you know, when it comes to the peaceable use of drugs, I mean, good God, you know, how can you solve a non-violent problem with a violent problem? I mean, you can't. And then you got these states. Who are legalizing marijuana. You know, because they're under pressure. I mean, a lot of people understand how insanely immoral this drug war is. And so the easy hurdle to get over is marijuana, because so many people know that someone that smokes marijuana that's an okay, decent person, and they don't want to put people in jail over marijuana. They understand that argument. They can accept it on such a mild drug like that. But what do these politicians do with this stuff? They're trying to get something through in Ohio where they're going to call it legalizing marijuana, but it's still going to be illegal because you can only have a certain little amount, so the police will still be able to arrest people and throw them in jail. You won't be able to grow it unless you're one of these 2 or 3 special companies. How's that free? How's that freedom? If you get caught with more than 2 plants or something of that nature, I don't know exactly what the terms are, then they're going to put you in jail. All they're really doing is decriminalizing somebody that's got a few joints, and they're letting a controlled person make it. Someone that's under their thumb. And the price is not going to go down because liberty and freedom has not been injected into the marijuana marketplace. The price is going to stay high. So whatever crime is being perpetrated in the marijuana trade is going to continue. Because hell, the state's not going to let these dopers have a joint for $1 when the going price is, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's $10, $20. I don't know. Let's say its going price is $20. They're not going to let the dopers have it for $1. They want to keep that price as high as possible, and collect as many taxes as possible. And meanwhile, a select few people are going to be allowed to grow wealthy growing this stuff. It's just all a racket. It's just all a racket. There is no release of the state's hands around the necks of people in these states where they legalize marijuana. They're going to legalize marijuana. It ought to be legal. Period. You ought to be able to grow it. You ought to be able to sell it. You ought to be able to buy it. And anybody ought to be able to grow it in any quantity. The state should not be involved in the free market. There is no such thing. This is a very important thing that I'm going to say here. And I'm not going to take the time to explain all of this. It ties into this marijuana thing. But there is no law that interferes with the free market that is moral. As soon as you hear a law interfering with the free market, you know that somebody is gaining from that law. Someone is getting some exclusivity. All monopolies are creations of the state. They lock down and only allow so many people to, issue so many licenses, for example, so there's a limited number of people in a certain trade, oil wells in the Gulf or whatever. All of these monopolies, all these giant corporate monopolies that everybody hates, are creations of the state. They're not creations of a voluntary market. They're not creations of people. Like if you have a giant furniture store in your town, it got big not because it has a license that prevents other people from selling furniture in that town. It got big because so many customers were pleased with the quality of the products and the service that the store owner provided, and they lined up to give him their money. That is a large business that is moral. It's moral because people like you and me rewarded that person for doing a good job for us. When you have a trade that is limited, then the price of those goods goes higher and higher and higher. The profits get gigantic. And that person's not, that person who's winning is being chosen by the state. They're favorites. They're not being chosen in a moral way by you and me electing to buy their product. I mean, look at Apple. People have elected to buy their product. They've spent tons and tons and tons of money with them, and they're growing enormously. And the next company that comes out with the next better gizmo will grow gigantically as well. But we need to keep the government out of it. We need less government. Most of us want less government, but most of us, when it comes to every single thing that government does, they'll say, well, that's okay. I think we should license African hair braiders, because if we don't license the African hair braiders, injure people. I think, and I think, they want, the government to regulate everything, computer monitors, because, wow, if they didn't regulate computer monitors, well, they would blow up in our faces and take our heads off. And all that just ignores the plain, obvious truth that the people who make computer monitors or whatever the consumer good is, they want you to buy more. They don't want you to be unhappy. They don't want to kill you. Just because regulation goes away doesn't mean that they're going to start putting nuclear waste and disposing it in baby milk formula. They're not going to do that. The people that sell that stuff want their product to be wholesome. They want mothers to buy it. It's going to be a good quality product because that's what it takes to get the dollars, to get people to make a purchase. They have to have confidence. And if a product is not good, it doesn't take long for it to be discovered that it's not good. The market will strangle those bad producers out of existence. When we have the state protecting through licenses, or in the case of the drug war here, and we have a few select people that can grow marijuana. When we have the state protecting their marketplace, protecting them from competition, protecting them from your choice as a consumer, they don't have to make something that's good. Why should they? Why should they? In my business, man, I'd be doing great if I was protected. If I was protected from the realities of the market. Hell, I wouldn't have to make any new products. None of them would have to be very good quality because, well, you'd all have to buy them. It's crazy. It's just crazy what we do in this world. And almost all of these problems are caused by the state. Almost all the problems that we have are caused by the state, caused by the use of force to make people choose a choice that's popular rather than respecting their liberty. And those problems cause us to cry to government, to lament, oh, please, please, come and solve this problem. Come and solve this problem. And so we cause government to grow by doing that. I don't know. I hope what I'm saying is just not crazy. Sounding crazy. But, I just all wound up after being on that radio show, man. I'm just so sick. I'm so sick of having to pay taxes to keep people in rape training in prison. And to pay to have them beaten, to pay to have them locked up, some of these people would be outside working, providing goods and services, making the world a richer place. But no. We gotta make sure that they're unproductive and dependent. It's just ridiculous. It's like forced welfare. It's retarded. I certainly have no problem at all with putting people in jail who initiate force on other human beings. You shoot somebody, you kill somebody, you rob somebody, you beat somebody. Hey, I hope you go away for a long time. You need to learn a lesson. But there's so many people that are sitting in there who were peaceful. I was hearing there's a sheriff's association now. Sheriffs take a oath to the Constitution, and they tend to take it very seriously. And there's a sheriff's organization now that's spreading across the country where they refuse to enforce victimless crime laws, which is what the drug war is. They, if there's not someone who's initiated force on another human being, well, they're going to ignore it. If you've got a marijuana joint in your ashtray, then they don't care. It's only if you use that joint to hurt somebody are they going to care. And I think the world would be a much friendlier place if we just quit preying upon each other and this predatory behavior against human beings is just, we've got to make sure that we each as individuals are not calling for it, not causing predatory behavior against other human beings. We need to ridicule this as much as possible. And I hope that, you haven't lost someone to drugs in your life. I've got friends who have had those experiences in their lives, and they're terrible. They're terrible, but, all that stuff happened with the drug war in place. There aren't any fewer people using drugs. It's just growing and growing and growing. You know, another one of my points I want to make about the drug war, when you make something illegal, you make it kind of sexy. You know, there's a certain sex appeal to doing something and getting away with it. And some people get a big thrill out of that. And it's just adding to the romance of that first experience that someone has sneaking off in a corner and doing a line of coke or something. It's just, you know, they're getting away with something. You know, it's cool and all that kind of stuff. You know, if it's not illegal, it's like who cares? Who cares? You know, you're taking away the sex appeal. Let's get these people out of the rape prisons, and let's get them under a doctor's care, and let's let them make their own choices, even if they're bad. Let's let them make their own choices, and just be encouraging and helpful, and kind and gentle. Let's give up the bars, give up the guns, give up the handcuffs. Let's just take all of that expense out of life, all of that evil, all that force against our fellow man. Let's just get rid of it. It's not worth it. It costs too much, and it's not going to. You know, there's places where they've you know, legalized different things, and the uses of them go down. You know, there's places in South America. It's just, you know, when are we going to learn? When are we going to learn? When are we going to quit using rape and beatings as a treatment for people that need to be in medical care? I mean, you know, you and I, let's decide. Let's join together. Let's do something about it. Let's be the person that nullifies these cases in the juries. Let's be the person who calls the radio station, who sounds rational, who talks clearly, who's a peaceful, considerate, thoughtful human being, who says enough is enough. You know, let's ridicule these predators and all the things that they're doing to these people. We've got to get this out of our society, out of our life. You know, it's got to be gone, and it's only going to happen with hundreds of thousands of individuals like you and me who've just had enough, don't want to pay for it anymore. I guess that's all I got to say. Yeah, there used to be at White Castles in my neck of the woods. I don't know where one is now. The one I knew about's gone. It's been gone for years. Thank you. Saw this on the highway sign. It's like, wow. This is kind of like an indulgence. I can't eat this stuff 2 days in a row. But I can definitely eat it one day. I didn't want to go in the park. Thank you, sir.
You have a wonderful day.
You too. You have to start it before you put it in drive. Awesome. I'm not going to make you guys watch me eat these. That would just be cruel and unusual punishment. Worse than the drug war. No, not really. Woohoo! Back on the highway, headed for Brandy Creek.
You're a liar. I said I got it going on, baby girl, and I'm flying. Took her to the hotel. She said, you're the king, so be my queen, if you know what I mean. Let's do the wild